and this focuses on an exploration of the rise of women's participation in sport in Pakistan. My name is Nida Rizki, and I am associated with Karachi City Football Club, and as a result of that, I was invited to be a moderator at this panel. I want to begin talking a little bit about women in sports in Pakistan. Recent studies have shown that only 10 to 25% of women in Pakistan participate in sports, and out of them, only 78% will play until the age of 21, and after that they drop out. Only 12% of the pro athletes in Pakistan are women. Whereas in the West, you have very different standards. They've shown trends of hyper-acceleration and hyper-growth in the women's sports sector. Global revenues from the investment in women's sports in the West were expected to reach $2.35 billion by the end of 2025. And an interest in women's sports grew 4.5 times faster than the interest in men's sports. But all is not lost. Historic barriers such as shifting cultural norms, a dearth of the required infrastructure, and an absence of safety and autonomy have been a hindrance to female athletes in Pakistan, but now the tides are changing. We are here to discuss real stories and to learn whether the actual stakeholders in the field actually agree with this statement. I'd like to introduce our panelists. I will start with Inaaya, who is an athletic prodigy who's only 17. She's already won 60 medals for rowing and was recently crowned Best Female Athlete at the Thailand Rowing Production. Safinah Elahi is captain of the Pakistan paddle team and co-founder of Paddleverse, Pakistan's largest indoor paddle facility. Mashal Hussain is a football player and athlete activist and co-founder of a women's football club which provides adult women with access to regular recreational football or which everyone loves. So, let us begin to level the field. I'm going to start with you, Mashal. Having been actively involved in the field of sports for the longest of any of these panelists, what assumptions do people still make about women in sports that frustrate you?
How long do we have?
So, I would like to say that we'll stick to about a minute and a half or so.
Thank you, first of all, for the introduction and questions, and really happy sitting next to you. I feel, so when I hear, when I hear about assumptions, I internalize that and I hear the words stereotype. And I feel in the past maybe 15 years, few stereotypes haven't really changed. And so I kind of wanted to talk about the ones that frustrate me still, which is, and maybe it's relatable, but one of the most common things I hear in my field in the spaces I occupy is that women's sports is nice to have, as opposed to sort of us, as opposed to something that's worth sustaining investment. And so it's sort of frustrating to have to see it treated as something that's, it's tokenized, it's symbolized, it's celebrated in its most superficial way. Baseline infrastructure that's necessary for young women like Inaaya to
So yeah, essentially that's one of the things that frustrate me, which is, yeah, women's sports not being something that we invest in a sustainable way, and then sort of, yeah, that's one thing. And the other thing that I find a little bit frustrating in this space is that in women's sports we sort of, there's this trope that women's teams only deserve resources after proving that they can win. But this, I mean, it relates to the first thing I said, which is building and investing in sustainable pathways is way more effective. It's obviously better for the entire ecosystem of sport, not just women's sports, but just sport as well. And women are a huge beneficiary of that. And so I think these are the things that I feel are constant stereotypes that we haven't quite changed systemically, but I see that more and more young women and generally women who are participating in sport they are having to change this narrative. And so the onus of changing these stereotypes is falling back on women, which, you know, I guess a different conversation, but all that to say that these are things that I still see. Yeah.
Okay. Inaya, you started competing at the age of 12. And did you then, or do you now feel accepted as an athlete, or do you think that you have to fight to be seen?
So I'm very grateful for the Karachi Boat Club community. On a small scale, no, I don't feel like I had to fight to be seen. They've been very good about like an even balance, and everyone gets the opportunity to compete. To the point where schools like excuse me, I will have a little bit of a stutter. Schools like Kiran Foundation and the Idaru School for the Deaf and Blind are competing at national and international levels. It's an effort that we've very consciously made, and it's a student-run program. I volunteered this year. As far as on a larger scale, it's always hard to make a name for yourself as an athlete, then as a female athlete, then as a female athlete in Pakistan. As she said, as Mashal said earlier, it's become a nice to have. That it's excellent, that look, it exists, but hey, look, cricket is on. And it's men playing cricket. Now, there are women's teams who play cricket excellently. So it's more about getting attention and retaining attention. Now, this success that you spoke about in Thailand, that happened in December. I'm very proud of it. I worked very hard for it. There are 6 years behind that. Right before Thailand, in November, I was on the Sindh national team for the national games that happened this year. There was visibility, there was media. Half of the entirety of the Sindh team was university kids, A-level kids, and a few O-level kids who were good enough and worked hard enough to make their way up to the provincial and national levels. We spoke about it in the month of November. National games ended, and that's it. And then it's done. Now, news will come again when other teams come. We have races every other month. We have quarterly regattas. There's nobody from any media other than our own there. That's our students, our kids, filming videos on our phones and putting them on our platform. Who's boosting our platform? We have a voice, but we need a soundboard. We need people to hear it. And it's very rare that people kind of, now attention spans are like zero now, but just generally, there are so many women in Pakistan doing so well for themselves. And I'm really grateful for things like WOW that kind of uplift us and give us a platform to speak. But I really wish that kind of, the spotlight stayed a little bit. It's a big stage, there's a lot of spotlights. We deserve one to stay on us year round. Again, when we win, it's excellent. When we're not winning, no one's looking. Thank you.
Safinah, paddle is generally seen as a sport for the affluent. So, as captain of the Pakistan team, can you tell me, has participation been growing equally across all regions and socio-economic backgrounds?
No, absolutely not. I feel that with sports that kind of begin privately, and paddle is it's not in schools, it's not even at government level, there is a federation, but unfortunately they don't have the resources to fund athletes or even support them in training or in programs. So no, I don't think paddle has reached in spaces where affordability is low. Saying that, I think that paddle has somehow brought a lot of people into sport, which otherwise in either earlier parts of their lives weren't a part of a sport. And it has also transitioned a lot of people who were playing other sports like badminton and squash and tennis, where they were unable to find a return because the cash prizes, etc., are much higher. So at the end of the day, what does it mean to be a pro athlete in Pakistan? What does that mean? Are you on a stipend? Are you on a tournament to tournament basis? Are you sponsored? So with paddle, I think that if we look at the positive side of it, and all tennis players who've kind of entered, the paddle community and are doing generously well, they're doing fantastic. they feel that paddle has more scope. So yes, it is expensive, but it is also paying back more. So it does give the opportunity to men and women both to earn something out of it. So yeah, at the as an answer to the affluent part, I would say that it hasn't reached the underprivileged yet, but there are programs that even my own club we're running, and that is to support rising stars. It's called the Rising Star program, and that obviously then does not really require you to be from a certain class, and you get training and you get, but that then too there is a certain level of affordability, because at the end of the day, a person who can afford to buy a racket, and the racket itself, the paddle racket is expensive. So even if you later, like you said, it depends on how much you're winning. So you later get sponsored by a club, and the few chosen ones get sponsored. Obviously, not every player that decides to enter the sport will get sponsored. But we are trying as private clubs to give out that support, and that support is not over encompassing or so large at this point that every person who has a little bit of talent and is showing skill in the sport is going to get sponsored. But yeah, regionally right now, courts are largely in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. Yes, so I think the bigger cities are now hosting a great chunk of courts. So we have more than 100 courts in Karachi now, which is pretty pretty big, because the number of people that play versus like how many people per 100,000 जैसे करते हैं, even in Europe or South America where it's been around for more than 50 years, 70 almost. Yeah, it was founded in 1969. So even there, they kind of take a quota per 100,000 people. So we don't probably have 100,000 people playing in even in the larger cities. So yeah, but it's opening up in the smaller cities. It's opening in Faisalabad and Multan and Hyderabad and Gujarat and So not saying that the affluent won't play there, because even there are classes that can afford this sport, but it's showing up, and when a sport shows up, then it's played in different quantities and varieties. I'm not going to surprise if somebody on the road starts to make something out of I don't know, like a fan or a whatever, and start playing paddle there, because you find versions of it. Not everybody can afford 8,000 rupees an hour, you know.
For example, I know a lot of my friends are athletes. Alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful for my community. There's no public access swimming. Where does one go learn how to swim without a membership? There are no public tracks. You got to pay for the park. You got to pay for the grounds. Where do you learn how to run? Now, rowing is a specialty sport. I recognize that. I wouldn't have gotten into it if my school didn't have a team that they prioritize so heavily. CES is a rowing school first. It's a very rowing forward school. They move test week around for it, which is a very big deal. Right? So I understand that I'm in a specialty sport now. Is it back? Yeah. So it's a specialty sport, and there's one place in all of Sindh where you can row. Now, I recognize that I'm talking about a small sport. Where's the cricket grounds where there's equipment that you can say, hey, I want to learn how to play cricket. I like playing it on the street. I think I can bowl well. Someone teach me. If you're not in a private school that has a team, how are you getting in front of people who will then say, hey, you're so good, let me help you. So as far as funding is important, even to me personally, I wouldn't have been able to go to Thailand without this program. I wouldn't have been able to go to Amsterdam without this program, and I'm very lucky for it. There's so many other kids. And again, I had my school and my community and my family supporting my journey. Now, if you're going up against any sort of external pressure, societal expectations, you're a girl, you're going to play a sport. How do you prove yourself? Where are the regional, even just neighborhood little competitions? Where do you go that you can show that, hey, I'm so good at this, beyond your room or your garden or the street that you live on? There's no scope for it. If there's any little tournament that's happening that kids who enjoy cricket can go and try and play against another team. Hey, this one's good. Keep an eye on her, keep an eye on him. It's not just about funding for us, it's about funding for sport. Because only then can people join sport. There's no large scale, where do you go to learn how to swim? I'll say it again and again because I learned how to swim when I was 11. When you want to go pro, you start swimming when you're 3 and 4 and 5. How do you get started? And then they wait for you to start winning. So first you have to fight to start playing, then you have to work for years to start winning, and then by the time they notice you, sports is a very short period in your life. You get to a certain age and then you can't stop yourself from that decline. You can't fight age or time. So as far as funding goes, I'm lucky to be sponsored, but we need more people.
Mashal, do you think that women are expected to deliver results with much fewer resources than men?
Thank you, and really well said. It's very similar in some of the sports spaces that I also occupy. And to your question, yes, definitely. Short answer is yes. Fewer resources, fewer long-term no pathway. So if you are talented, fantastic, because that's what we're banking on here. Your talent, your back-end effort, your privilege. You know, so I'd say fewer resources, bigger expectations, and also, when we talk about funding, and I just want to make a caveat here that yes, completely agree. Funding is a huge issue in the macro space. The utilization and of those resources in terms of how we are spending them, who is making those decisions. In many of our sports, it's still men making those decisions. We're talking about women's sport, but these are decisions made by bodies of men in closed door rooms. So the actual people who are beneficiaries of these decisions, of how the money is spent, what protections are in place, and then based on those things, what expectations are in place, is not really in the hands of women still. I can speak for the federations that I'm in touch with. That's not the case. So, are there women at that table? Um, can I? Yes, there are women. Are they the right women? How do we decide which women should be? Is it a democratic process? Is it based on lived experience? Or are you in the party that's in power and they need a quota to fill? So let's be real about who is making these decisions in many of these spaces. Should there be more? Yes, please. And focus on how they get there, who they are, and what they advocate for. So I think, yeah.
Safinah, would you say that funding is invested, or that it's been invested sustainably, or is it event-based and temporary?
So I'm just gonna segue from what she was just talking about. I think that when and obviously some of it is going to be from personal experience, and I'll get to your question within what I'm talking about. I think that when I sat on the table where we make decisions, right? Like what kind of tournament we're playing, what kind of players we're sponsoring. I unfortunately have to be very aggressive on that table because usually it's only me and around 25, other male owners of clubs. Because paddle is a very recent addition to the sports landscape in Pakistan. There are only male owners, club owners, and I think I'm the only sort of female on the table. So we tried to make an association, and I have felt that in the past year I have become more aggressive as a person, because it's just that like how when you there's a study that you only shout when you feel that the other person can't hear you. Otherwise, why would you shout? You would just speak softly and expect the other person to hear you. So at such tables, equality, whether it's prize money or the format, for example, till the last tournament, we were doing a men's A category, and that was 3 sets. And for women's A, we were doing 1 set. And people, kept trying to change that, and they said, why can't women get that? Because, with 3 sets, you get more time to kind of catch up, and 1 set is kind of just nerves. And So this tournament that we're hosting, like it's actually going on right now at Paddleverse. I made it 3 sets, and then I also tried to match, if not completely, but raise the female prize money. So I feel that, because I'm there and because I am also an athlete, I completely understand that this requires as much attention. Um, so yeah, to your point that, is it right now event based, or is it, sustainable, and people just put in money in a sport and hope to get some return? I think it is very much event based. When a tournament comes up, we kind of make a proposal, and we say, please, we'll give you this branding, and you can put up a chaos during these 8 days, and all the who's of who are playing, and they will see your brand. And so brands also just want that visibility. So right now I feel that it is very event based. I hope that in the future it can be player based, so that you're putting your funds and money behind a player, and that player should happen to be female. I hope that, we do select women more and put our money behind women. I'll tell you a very short story. I don't want to take too much time, but I was sponsoring an athlete, and a lovely girl, excellent, excellent paddle player, and her husband was right, next to her when we were kind of doing a contract signing, and she kept saying that, but I just really like playing paddle, but my family comes to, is most important. That's my first priority. And then I said, yeah, of course, we understand that if we sponsor you, these commitments may, vary. And I know that, I knew that she had just gotten married and the husband was sitting right there and seemed to be supportive as well. And then she said it again after a few sentences and said it again after. And I realized that she was probably giving a hint that I will not let paddle come in between our family planning. So if I were to have a child, I will take a step back. And she kept saying it sweetly, and any other club would have said that, if you're planning a family, why are you playing a sport? Because the contract is for at least 2 years. And I still signed her, and she did have the baby. So actually, she hasn't had the baby yet. She's pregnant. So after 2 months, she conceived. So we have the biological clock also kind of going against that funding or the money that we're talking about, right? So any big company would be like, you cannot have a baby for two years, and you keep playing competitively. So, social norms also come in where there is family pressure, and no matter how supportive the family or the husband was, um, but she still had to take a step back. So I think that there is more than just the inequality of genders. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of things happening in the background of why people do not maybe support as much.
All right, let's move on to international pathways in sports. So, Inaya, how important do you think exposure is versus performance when you are being selected to play internationally?
Of course, I think it's important that you're good at the sport, but some of the best athletes I know are not the ones with incredible race times who are super strong. It's the people with the mentality that I will get there. So I think as far as like performance goes, I think mental performance is a very big part of it. Now, if I see someone who is maybe coming third and fourth and third and fourth and second and third and fourth consistently, and they're showing up every day, I think they deserve to go abroad a lot more than the person who will come to one training, and because alhamdulillah they're gifted or they work at home and they're not showing up with the team, why are they going abroad? Now, as far as exposure goes, I think going abroad is so important. I've gone on 2 trips and come back with nothing. I went to Russia, to the Vladivostok regatta. That was completely open. There were no age categories. There was men and there was women. And I was 16 going up against people who were 24, 25, and 26. I came dead last in every race, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. To travel on your own, now, I went as a kid, and I'm very lucky that I did, but there's a lot of athletes who don't get to go abroad to train, to learn, to race. it's a completely different experience. You're on your own, you're there to prove yourself, you're wearing your flag. That weight, that responsibility is unreal. I can't describe it for you. And being, for me, it's, I'm on the water, sorry. I'm on the water, I'm standing at the start line, and they'll say Karachi or they'll say Pakistan, line up. That feeling is indescribable, and that exposure to other athletes who train at such a high standard, it is their whole life. Now, I have school and I have work and I have an exam to give and I can't go to training, there's a paper tomorrow. Their life is rowing. Their life is their game, and to learn and to race against people who have managed to actually make it the center of their life, which is so hard to do, to put those blinders on and zone in that I will do this and I will do it so well that it will be my life. That's a really big commitment to make. There's a lot of life to live. And there's a lot of things you could be doing when you know you should be training or sleeping. There's a lot of food you want to eat that you choose not to because I have a race or I have a match. And those are the sacrifices you make for the game. And to go abroad and to see other people who have made those sacrifices and who are succeeding, who are living the life that you're dreaming of, that you want for yourself, I would trade all my medals to do and to go and see and learn. I'm very grateful for my achievement, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy that I'm winning, but I don't mind losing a race if I'm losing against people I've learned from.
Mashal, you've had a lot of experience, locally, internationally, when it comes to football. What barriers do you think Pakistani women face when you're transitioning from a local to an international environment?
Thanks. And I guess just to caveat, we are talking about the topmost level, the top level that where participation is technically the least, because this is the elite space we're talking about. So I'd say when you're in that space, and rowing is a bit individual, and I think I love hearing that your perspective, even though it's so individual, it's so relatable to I play a team sport. We're talking about a team. So when you're talking about a team, that's like 25 egos, in one space. So it's very different to manage sort of that mentality when you're trying to take a team to the next level. So I guess, yeah, there's a lot to consider, and one of the biggest things I think maybe that we haven't done super well is focus on that mentality, that mindset. Okay, there are huge issues with money and resourcing and all of that, structural issues, but the investment in the athletes themselves, who are going to have to shift how they look at their sport, how they look at their life, their lifestyle, their everyday choices, the choice you make from 6 a.m. when you wake up, and the series of choices you have to make till you go to sleep at night. This is what it means to be an athlete. I'd say that is that transition from being the best in a local situation, which is also very privilege based, so you could be the best for many reasons. When you switch over, there's a lot of these, your preparation is exposed, and the mental side of that preparation is where I would love to see more focus. We need that, and that's also going to raise the level of the game. And so I'd say it'll raise the level of the game, not to say that it should only, improve our performance, but it will have a downward effect also. This is when we talk about role models, we don't just want to see women with medals. That's great. But there is, like you said, there's like 6, 7, 10 years behind that medal, So I would say that, the transition from being the best locally to even having the chance to compete on an international stage, the professionalism has to show, and it has to start from an individual mindset level. It has to be harnessed, managed, taught, cultivated, and in the end funded.
Add like one little thing to it. As I said earlier, attitude is very important to me. I row individually. I row on a single scull, but it's a team sport. Our school rowing team is 60 people. It's a lot of people, right? Now, I know a lot of people who will show up to training every single day and again come second and third, and I respect them so much more than the people I know are going to the gym with their friends but will come to one training session or one team meeting, or you have to call them 4 times that please you had to come pick me up 30 minutes ago. Now, when you talk about mentality, I think so few coaches focus on that. They're like, hey, you're fast, you're strong, great. How can I help you more? You're finished, you're a package piece, go out and play. Given such little attention. I have such bad race anxiety, and it's taken 2 schools and 4 different coaches to talk to me about it. And it was such a struggle for me because I'll do all the training, I'll pull in all the early mornings, I will eat well, even when I'm really full, I will finish my plate, which is really hard to do, which people don't talk about, the nutrition, the sleep, oh, I can't go out tonight, I have training in the morning, I have training in the morning, I have training in the morning. It took 4 coaches to talk to me about what's happening in my head and the pressure on me. And I think it would just be such an upgrade to sports in Pakistan and in the world if you're joining a team and you're taught how to think like an athlete, and you're taught how to think like you're going to win no matter what happens tomorrow. You, as long as you leave it all on the water or on the pitch and you come back and said that was 100%, you've won. And we're so hard on ourselves, especially as women. We think we have to prove ourselves. We don't win, we're not going to get ahead. And that sort of mentality is really detrimental to us. We'll come home with a silver medal and be so upset about it. We'll be heartbroken. You know how hard it is to get a silver? It's really hard. Or we'll come second in a tournament and we'll be like, oh, but it wasn't first. And that's often cultivated by that, oh, but she got first. That comparison, that we're not taught to think like effort is what matters. We're taught to think that results are what matter, and the effort is just, hey, you're putting an effort, great, you have to win with that effort. You're putting an effort, hey, that's a win. And that switch in mentality really shows when you go abroad. Because unfortunately, the standard in Pakistan is not what it is everywhere else in the world. No matter how hard we train, no matter how many hours we put in, it's not there yet. And inshallah, with people like us and you who are sitting here and platforms like this, it will be. But when you go abroad, you see that shift. And you can learn that. And that's so important. I came back, and again, I lost 4 races in Russia. And it was the calmest I've ever been. Thank you. Sorry if I took up.
Oh, no, that's okay. But it's nice to hear that you're so passionate about it. So we've spoken about funding, we've spoken about, mental prowess and training. Safina, you took a team internationally recently. What support systems would you think were missing for athletes when you were taking them to represent Pakistan abroad?
I think firstly, and I think I found out once I was already there that how well prepared the other teams were. I think we had a 2-day camp, and even to that, I ended up giving free courts because I said okay, and I called up a couple of coaches and I said okay, um, one of the players was staying at my house, and I was just like trying to facilitate how to do this in the best possible manner, and I feel that once we were there, we realized that these, and younger girls, by the way, I think we were just laughing that because paddle was introduced to our lives in somewhat a pleasant surprise. So a lot of us were in our late 20s and late 30s. So we're like, is there, a tournament for older women? Because the rest of the people are like 15 to maybe 20. Their movement, their muscle memory, everything was so much better than ours. And obviously their training, so Saudi team and the Qatar team and the UAE team, they'd had 6-month camps of constant training. So they had actually, even in their team, they had I think 8 players, while 6 were supposed to play, 2 extra. And then they had a physiotherapist, a content person, 2 coaches, and usually there was this one person just like hovering around. I don't know exactly what that person did. And we had 1 coach, and we had 7 team members. 7 also, in the end, we were 6. And I literally had to convince this, girl from Islamabad who's excellent. And I said that, listen, please come. Because one of the girls we thought that wasn't as strong. So I said, in case one of us gets injured, we don't have a backup. And in case something happens, कोई visa का मसला हो जाए, कुछ हो जाए, तो team ही नहीं जाएगी. So we had one, that one extra person on the team. So, and then on the first day, there were no men's matches. So there was a men's team of 7 people and a women's team of 7 people. And we competed in Doha for the Asia Cup. Um, and then on the first day, there were no men's matches. So the coach showed up for the women's matches and directed us, and obviously had not seen much of us. They gave us 1 day of training there. And I had to make some calls, even though I don't think that I had the capacity and the knowledge to make those calls, because I am not a coach. I was also a paddle player, and I was just selected for my seniority, maybe, to be the captain of the team. But I did realize that being captain did require bringing everyone together. And more than that, when the fights erupted and the crying happened and all of that, the captain had to show up and kind of say that, okay, I'll take a step back. Um, but yes, on the second day, so the men's matches started. And then, as we all know, that when the men play, the women don't really need a coach apparently. So the coach sat with the men's matches. And lo and behold, I became their coach. I sat in the coach's chair, and I didn't know how to coach them, because I know my own strategy when I am playing. But the teams that they were facing, they were way beyond my pay scale. I mean, they were playing brilliantly. So what I was doing, I was holding the umbrella, because it was really hot. The matches were at 1:30 p.m. And I just held the umbrella, and I had a banana in one hand. And when the players would come out, because that day I sat out because of the said fight 1 day before, because one of the team members said, why are you making me sit? The coach was making one of the team members sit out. She said, this is self-funded, I want to play. A whole lot of drama. So I said, I'll sit out. So me sitting out was sitting in the coach's chair. So yeah, I gave them like their cold towels and bananas and like water and the umbrella. And then at one point they said, what do we do? And I was like, play your best. Because, I wasn't equipped. Yeah, I wasn't equipped for that. The mindset you're talking about, that sports psychology, God, like, for God's sake, there needs to be somebody who can give the right advice at that point. So I gave my advice. Of course, I said, no, give a lob here and do this and do that. But I mean, honestly, I felt ill-equipped. So I think that if we had more camps here while, before leaving, if we had more talks about strategy and about the mental space that you require to compete internationally, if you have even a nutrition plan, a training program, a technique camp, um, and yes, like, even I feel as going back as much as having degrees that teach people to qualify in these things. Why aren't we teaching sports psychology as much as business administration, right? Ho gaya, chamda bhi bech liya, chini chawal bhi bech liya. But the world is going forward, right? Why don't we have physiotherapy as a recognized profession? Because, wo wala nahi hai ki, a masseuse can just come and now take your leg forward and, backward and just fix your injuries. I think that more degrees are needed. I think that people should invest in this future, and then those people should take it as a career where there's enough return that, being a physiotherapist is your career path, or a sports psychologist is your career path, or being a coach gives you enough that you don't need a bank job. So I think that is all that you learn when you step out in a competitive game outside of your country, and the representation. So one thing I was very, particular about was, I was like, kachra nahi karna, please. So every time, our practice or like match finished, I'd be like, chalo, bottles uthao sab log. And, all like kind of, respect to them, that they gave me respect and listened. Because I said, Pakistani, please, kachra macha ke mat aana, kahin pe. Because that's what, I said, whether we win or lose, the image of what you're representing should be greater than um, the, the sport you play on that day. I think that the team that goes this year and the team that goes next year and the team that goes, the following year will be better. And probably the learnings that I have, I can probably, pass those on. And skill-wise, we will get better. But I think that feeling that you talked about, the flag kind of, like everything that you kind of crib about in your own country, वहाँ जाके literally दिल कर रहा था झंडा पहन लो और just like do a walk down the red carpet with your flag on, and we did actually. हमने यूं यूं करके अपनी सारी videos भी बनाई. um, and yeah, we the boys did qualify, the girls did not, but they say you lose or you learn. I think I learned.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're almost out of time, so we'll close off our discussion. So in my closing round, I'd like to do a finish the sentence game, which I think is always fun. So I'll start with Mashal. So, Mashal, the obstacles that still remain and need to be removed are.
Limited me to a sentence. The obstacles that remain and need to be removed are, in the context of women's participation in sport, I would say, oh my God, stereotypes, tropes, cultural norms, women's agency. A lot of participation is not tied towards, it's not, it's not the professional side of sports only. It's the fun, the play, the joy. So I would say, yeah, just maybe it's the approach that we have towards participation in sports. Yeah, all sports doesn't have to be elite entertainment, what you see on TV. You can play for fun. I encourage more people to play for fun, just, participate. So yeah, I guess the mental side.
Inaaya.
Yes, ma'am.
Finish the sentence. The next generation of Pakistani sportswomen need.
Encouragement. They need a reminder that the game is fun, and they need visibility, they need role models, they need to be heard, and they need to be given the space to play the game. Lose a bunch of times before somebody tells you that, okay, you played now, numbers, okay, thanks. You have to let them. It takes so many losses to get to a win. And we're not, as female athletes who have to prove themselves, we're not given space to lose. We lose and they be like, haan, haarna hi tha. No, it's the first game. It's the third game, it's the 10th game. We start winning so late. You have to train, you have to work. Give us the space to play the game, to lose the game, and come back and not have lost attention.
And Safinah, since you're the author slash athlete amongst us, I want you to finish this. Changing the game is.
Big one.
Rewriting the rules. And I hope that some of us are already doing that.
So I'd like to close off the session by saying, in my eyes, changing the game is not about merely creating space and fitting into the nooks and crannies that we're given. It's about claiming your space, it's about protecting your space, it's about funding your space and believing in it. Thank you to all my wonderful panelists. Oh, thank you. It was wonderful. If there are any questions from the audience, we'd like to open it to the floor. Anybody? No? Okay. Oh, well, we have one.
Thank you. Hi. My name is Usman. I'm a lawyer, a crazy sportsman, and single dad of 2 kids. My daughter's 18, son is 17. And my daughter was a rower at Cedar, and the amount of pressure that she faced for that 1 year of rowing was intense. I always wanted to be a sports, actually a coach, um, but am unfortunately a lawyer now. Um, but now my daughter is wanting to become a sports psychologist, and this is her. It's absolutely her idea on her own. So I think my question really is that to all of you, and kudos to all of you for what you've achieved and what you will continue to achieve. But how do you deal with the mental aspects of performing? I mean, some of us are privileged enough to get help from, therapists or whatever, but because the mental aspect of performance in sports is so intense, you say that you went with the paddle team and, you barely, I think it seemed like, you were doing most of everything on the tour. But obviously, how important it is to have sort of, a team like, you mentioned a masseuse, a physio, but the mental aspect. I mean, how do you deal with, the mental aspects of performance and dealing with pressure?
Who wants to take it? All three?
Okay, so you've asked a very dangerous question. I I have a race coming up Tuesday. I'm up against a cedar girl who is very, very strong and has a very high chance of taking it from me. I still, to this day, I've been rowing almost 6 years now. Yeah, I've been rowing a very long time, and it still freaks me out. I will still have jitters the night before. I will still talk to my mom like, what if, but what if? I've come to that point where now the pressure is she's gonna lose, right? And I think that's a really dumb thing to be scared about, and I can recognize that even though it's happening in my head. But the biggest thing, at least as far as advice would go for dealing with pressure, is to believe in your effort, right? I know that I have spent the last 6 months focused on this. I've let my grades slip. I haven't seen my friends. I've spent 6 months focused on this one week, that's Monday onwards. And I believe in that effort. I know that I have gone out and I've trained and I've given 100% of myself every time. And I think that belief is very important to me. The days that I want to sleep in, I've showed up for myself. And the fact that I've done that gives me like the excitement to go into the race that, look, I've worked so hard, let's see. And I think making yourself excited and reminding yourself that you love the game really takes some of the pressure off. Because even if you go out there and lose, you're going out there and losing, fine, but you're going out there and doing something you love to do. And reminding myself of the game and I've chosen the game really takes some of the pressure off to win the game because I'm in it and I'm really lucky to be in it. I'm so happy that I'm in it that I kind of forget that, okay, didn't win, next time. Yeah, so believe in your effort.
I think for me, it's silencing your own signals that you're sending yourself. A lot of times, while even playing a match, it's like not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. It's like you missed a point, you missed a point. So I think that what signals you are sending yourself, firstly, and I also have two children who are both now into paddle. I have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. And to my daughter as well, who's in the finals today, I tell her the first signal in life, not just in sports, is what you tell yourself. You know, if you say that you will fail or you're not good enough, most likely you will not be good enough. So firstly, silence your own negative thoughts. Then I hope that, you are, and maybe I am, and, all athletes have this circle that kind of raises them and tells them you can do it. And that's your primary kind of message, whether it's your coach or your mom or your friend or your sister, them telling you and you believing that you can do this. That's the mental aspect of it. And then I feel that, like you said, the training you put in. So I'm a writer, I've been a nerd all my life. And I tell my children, I'm like, I was such a nerd that I would love exams. I would, be like, yes, I'm going to go tomorrow. And you know what? I am going to ace that exam. And then when the result comes, I'm going to be so happy. So same if you translate into sports. You've been training like 3 months, 6 months, waking up, diet, everything that needs to happen. You've trained. Now it's your chance to perform, for yourself and for, other people, but mostly for yourself. And, um, and how exciting that is, and how lovely and fantastic and privileged is that you get to perform, you get to play, and hopefully you love to do that, right? That's why you're in the sport. So yeah, that's what my, I think, message would be.
Thank you. I can't say it better than the two of you have said it. I just wanted to add that I echo exactly these sentiments that from an athletic perspective, or let's say a performance perspective, yeah, pressure is a privilege, but I wanted to address one thing specific to your question that your daughter's studying sports psychology. Um, there's also pressure in these situations that this career must take off in this career. I mean, the truth will be that finding a job in this space, in this, where we are in this moment of time in women's sports or sport, these are going to be difficult and challenging career choices. But I would say that the same mindset, believe in the effort and do it for yourself and remember why you started. Those are things to remember in that professional space also. You may not, she may or may not, and I wish her all the best, become an actual sports psychologist, but that training, that knowledge, that skill set will help her. I'm sure of that. I can vouch for that. That's my professional background also. But that will help her in so many ways. And so I hope for her and for you that pans out that way.
If there is nothing else, then we will close it off. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, wonderful panelists, for being here. And hopefully the future is brighter.